Welcome back to Quizzer Channel. In this Choose One Button video, you will need to choose Mom or Dad button. There will be 35 rounds and 10 seconds to choose. Please subscribe for more exciting videos like this, and let's start. Do you want to give this back to Mom or Dad? Gucci bag. Do you want to buy this car for Mom or Dad? Mini Cooper. Do you want to bake this cake for Mom or Dad? Batman cake. Will you eat this fruit with Mom or Dad? Melon. Will you go to this restaurant with Mom or Dad? KFC. Would you play this board game with Mom or Dad? Monopoly Fortnite. Would you watch this movie with Mom or Dad? Barbie. Will you visit this place with Mom or Dad? Disneyland. Would you play this sport with Mom or Dad? Ice hockey. Will you study this subject with Mom or Dad? Maps. Will you buy these sneakers for Mom or Dad? Nike Air Jordan. Will you drive this on the sea with Mom or Dad? Jet ski. Do you want to go there with Mom or Dad? Dubai. Will you play this video game with Mom or Dad? Roblox. Will you do this challenge with Mom or Dad? Subscribe. Will you give this house to Mom or Dad? Modern villa. Do you want to eat this with Mom or Dad? Cotton candy. Will you exercise this with Mom or Dad? Yoga. Do you want to gift this to Mom or Dad? Yacht. Do you want to do this every weekend with Mom or Dad? Shopping. Will you cook this for Mom or Dad? Sushi. Do you want to adopt this pet for mom or dad? Kitten. Would you give this to mom or dad? Bouquet of flowers. Do you want to play this musical instrument with mom or dad? Guitar. Would you live here for a week with mom or dad? Private island. Will you buy this perfume for mom or dad? Pa Coraban. Do you want to drink this with mom or dad? Coca-Cola. Would you like to eat this with mom or dad? Hawaiian pizza. Do you want to do this with mom or dad? Helicopter tour. Will you do this challenge with mom or dad? Write combined names of your mom and dad. Would you like to give this motorcycle with mom or dad? Sport bike. Will you build this room for mom or dad? Gaming room. Will you buy the snack for mom or dad? Lay's. Would you gift this phone to mom or dad? Samsung S23. Would you like to do this in winter with mom or dad? Snowball fight. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video.